Okay, we're live.
Welcome, everyone, to the Prescott BIA Board of Management meeting for October the 11th, 2022. Call the meeting to order for the approval of the agenda. Recommendation that the agenda be accepted as presented. Could I have a mover? Jeannie?
I'll move.
Seconder?
I'll second.
Linda? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any declarations of interest this evening? No. And there are no delegations or presentations. Everyone have a chance to look at the minutes of the previous meeting. A recommendation that the minutes dated September 13th, 2022 be accepted as presented. May I have a mover?
I'll move.
Linda? Kevin, seconder, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The financial report, Linda, would you like to present?
So not a lot went on in the last little bit. Really, the only changes were, obviously, we've got Justin. So there were some expenses in regards to our coordinator. And there was $36 affiliated with advertising. So we still have a surplus of $20,622. But we still do have a number of obligations that are outstanding and pending. So I'm sure we will be talking about that in a little bit.
Okay, recommendation that the financial report be accepted as presented. Have a mover, Kevin, Nicole, seconder, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Committee reports, promotions committee.
So last month, Promotions Committee, we discussed what I'm going to discuss further in my presentation. So the Harvest Market and Harvest Fundraiser, with a little advanced discussion concerning Christmas that we'll get to in the agenda item. Met at the museum for the first time, so that was enjoyable for everyone, I think. And I'll cover the bulk of really the outcome of that in my presentation.
Okay, that sounds good. The beautification committee and the recruitment committee didn't meet, so that will go ahead to number 8, staff updates. Go ahead, Justin.
Bring up my presentation here. So I'm just going to briefly go through the items that were on there. The first one, we have finalized the transition of the BIA website over to the hosting on the town pages. So they are split between the business focus section, BIA section, and on Best Prescott, and the visitor focused Riverwalk District page is on the Explore Prescott side, but they're linked basically back together. You can see over here screenshots from there. So this is the Explore page up top where we have kept the link there up in the corner. You click on that and it takes you to the more business oriented, strictly BIA side of things. And then the same on the bottom there, you'll see the business oriented page that has more of the specific business information and a link back to the Riverwalk District page. So downtownprescott.ca now fully points to the Riverwalk District page. So that's the landing when you come from downtownprescott.ca, you land on the Riverwalk District page, which links back and forth between the two of them. So we want to start focusing now on sort of adding some additional content to, especially the Riverwalk District page, focusing on seasonal events and new assets that go in downtown. Well, on to the fall update. So the Harvest Fundraiser is going. We have 8 participating businesses downtown. The apples we'll collect at the end of this week, along with any donations to go up in the tree. We have picked up some to start filling up the baskets on there, and we had originally hoped to be able to, not hoped, but thought the fundraiser would conclude on October 8th, and we could do a presentation to the food bank at the farmers market, but that timeline seemed a little bit short, so we extended it to the 14th. So we'll have to make an arrangement with the food bank for the conclusion of the event to do some sort of more public recognition of the donation. The harvest market. So I have some more pictures later, but we had the last farmers market of the season, the harvest market on Saturday. We had 17 vendors, including 5 first-time vendors. A number of vendors were reporting higher than normal sales. The shopper turnout seated also seemed higher than people expected. And as I mentioned earlier, we sold in excess of $400 in tourism gear sales from our own booths during the market. There were a lot of people through. You can see in the picture on the bottom left of the screen, we had a pretty full house. I don't know how many more tents we could have theoretically gotten in there. We had the fire pit set up with the Adirondack chairs around them. We had quite a few people sitting in those and warming up throughout the day, as it was very cool. And we had Pat Johnson on stage singing. We had a number of really interesting first-time vendors and a couple that returned for the first time in a while. It was really exciting, I think, to see some of the people who came out and just the number of people who came through shopping, despite the fact that it was very cold. So I also want to touch on our Small Business Week 2022 plans. So for Small Business Week 2022, we will be launching our Invest Prescott Facebook page, which is going to be an economic development focused Facebook page, where we'll be able to share content like the Small Business Week promos from across the town, as well as content that's more business and business assistance oriented, where we don't really have a platform right now. It doesn't fit on the Explore page, which is more focused on tourism. For the general economic development department, the BIA page doesn't necessarily fit because it's targeting downtown. So we'll still share things through there, but this page will be more looking at focusing on the more business directed content and externally directed investment content. We have lined up a series of small business interviews with business owners from around town, who Elizabeth will be shooting videos with them, just a sort of short 5-question interview that will go into a TikTok style video that we'll be posting throughout the week during Small Business Week, which is next week, about operating small business and the opportunities available when they're locating their business in Prescott. On October 20th from 6 to 8, we will be hosting an informal networking event and a sort of celebration of our small business at the Museum and Visitor Center. So we'll be putting out a general invitation if you'd like to stop in, chat with other business owners, chat with us about the programs that are available, about the successful businesses in our community, about what assistance we can provide more generally to business specific programs that are offered. And we will have some guest speakers at that event. And then finally, we'll be promoting the Business Development Bank of Canada content. So they're sort of the driving engine of Small Business Week. So we will be promoting their content, like their webinars and events, through our social media pages for Small Business Week. Also, in the case of, for example, where the small business interviews are BIA businesses, they'll be running through the downtown BIA page as well. So we'll get these things across multiple platforms. We would like, if you could seek out, or when you see the Invest Prescott page coming to your Facebook feeds, if you could follow that like that. And we're starting from zero on that one and building it up. I also wanted to jump through to the next item under staff updates and just talk a little bit about the international plowing match. So we had, Prescott had a booth in the United Counties of Leeds Grenville tent at the international plowing match, which was the 3rd week in September. We used it to really try to highlight local businesses, local attractions, There was also a booth there from the Ford and a booth from Shakespeare. And we were able to really highlight some of the local businesses. We had a giveaway each day of a prize basket of goods from a variety of local businesses. There was a massive number of people came through that tent in those 5 days. A lot of people came up, a lot of people were familiar with Prescott, a lot of people had favorite spots they like to come here. And we also talked to a lot of people who weren't really familiar, who were from farther away and were interested in what we were talking about. So there is one of the basket winners who his level of excitement when he came back across the plowing match and saw the size of the basket he won. He was a very happy man that day, but you can see we had a variety of goods from stores across town, from One Set 426, from Quality Creations, from Elmer Boss, Old Magic Shop, from Water Girl Quilts. We had some Prescott goods in there as well. And I didn't have a good picture of it, but what we also had was a farmer's market, home-based business portion on the United Counties table, which include a number of our farmers market vendors, as well as a number of local home-based businesses that are doing some interesting things. Well, that was a number of topics there, but if anyone had any questions from throughout that.
I did, about the first time vendors at the market. Did you get any feedback from them? Do you think they're gonna consider coming back next year, or?
I think at least 3 of them are planning to come back next year. There's interesting dynamic that in a number of cases, I think they felt like they weren't ready yet. And then when they were finally able to go over the precipice, then they were very excited about being there. And I think a number of them will be back next year.
That's good news. That's great. Great.
I will throw in, we also took the opportunity to promote the pop-ups as well, because we're actively trying to recruit vendors for that. So really proposing a hybrid option for those that might consider coming to the market 1 day a week, and then maybe transition to the pop-up for a few other days that week. So it was interesting, really good mix of vendors out at this market. I think it was kind of the dream mix, right? It really checked every single box of vendors that we've been trying to attract for a long time, and really get that blended mix at the same time, because we have a lot that will come and go, but having those 17 there, I think it really hit every aspect that people were truly looking for when it comes to a farmer's market.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then it gives the other vendors support too, when they see that many,
Yeah.
right? Then it's actually, oh, let's go. There's so many vendors. Yeah, that's good.
And we've done a good, well, not we, I should say Justin has done a really good job of establishing that, good mix of seasonal vendors who are continuing to come back every, we've had a couple now who've been with us for 2 years now, and you can tell, they're committed and they're starting to more actively promote it too. So there's some momentum happening, and I think we have some ideas for next year when it comes to, maybe like the Friday evening markets that might even attract, some additional vendors down the road.
That's really good. Are you having a wrap up for the season, like a wrap up meeting with the vendors, like just to get?
I'll be circulating something in the neighborhood of a survey more than that, but we are also hoping to have 2 or 3 more events through November and December with them as well. So don't really want to totally close the book on year with them yet, but
that's good. Great. Does anybody else have any comments? No? Okay, the next agenda item, Christmas events and promotions.
like me too.
Yes,
All right.
that'd be great.
So at the motions committee meeting, we're discussing a number of potential Christmas type promotions I think the consensus really was we didn't want to do another passport so soon after summer again. So it was more looking at some other potential ideas. There was a discussion on how to do something like an elf on the shelf promotion that would be similar to a couple summers ago when we had the scavenger hunt for the sweaters. Some other potential ideas are now escaping me that we discussed, but
The special business days?
special business days,
Special
where
shopping days.
days where you could have men or ladies nights, men's nights, shop for mom kind of nights. One thing that we will be doing that we're sort of just finalizing now is some Friday nights starting around Black Friday. We'll be having the visitor center open for holiday sales, and that's one of the things where we'll be looking to incorporate some of those farmers market vendors and sort of a small scale indoor vendor market each week associated with that. So they may be nights where we could incorporate those theme nights. We'll be encouraging the businesses to stay open anyways with those, but sort of having some sort of promotion going through there. I believe we also discussed the idea of finding a way to incorporate the parade into a bit of a promotion, encouraging businesses to stay open on parade night and just finding a couple ways to circulate people downtown during that.
I think we're looking, excuse me, probably my throat, also having as part of purchases made, like you spend a minimal amount and you would give it pressed off dollars for some of those special days that we're opening, like the Black Friday would be a big one. And we're also thinking about doing that basically throughout the month of December, anytime the visitor center is open, possibly as an alternative to the Christmas promotions that we've done in the past with the dollars, where we sold them at a discounted rate. I found if we were going to look at that, I think we'd have to consider some more limitations, because as much as we had huge response to that, it really, it didn't necessarily benefit all the small to independent retailers that we wanted to. I think we found a lot of people were purchasing those to make some larger purchases from some of the merchants, which yes, in many cases, it went to some of the smaller independent retailers, but not in every case. And I think we really wanted to look at ways that we could transition that so that it really becomes a more of a benefit for the merchants, as well as encouraging people to spend more if we can incentivize them a little bit. So I think we're going to look more at those, going back to kind of those giveaways, maybe in partnership with some of those nights that we have the special shopping days. And then if people are making purchases here, they can then turn around and spend those dollars at some of the other downtown or uptown shops that are open during that special promotion night. So I think you'll see us pivot a little bit when it comes to that. We've also had some initial discussions about the community services. We want to have a good conversation with them. So we wanted to get a sense of where the board was tonight, on what you were thinking, if we wanted to do something in conjunction with the parade, tree lighting. That's something that's kind of TBD at this point. We need to have that discussion with community services to find out if that's all going to coincide on the same night now that the parade's returning, or if they'll still do a separate tree lighting. So we really want to have those conversations and just get a sense of where the BIA was at before we go any further on those ideas. And we were really just focusing more on, I'd say, the promotion thing versus like a downtown event at this point. Also going to throw out there, we've kind of batted around the idea of maybe some sort of Christmas market, possibly in conjunction with the pop-ups, but I do feel like maybe that's a 2023 thing. We're just kind of getting the last of those pop-ups in place now. So I think, again, maybe you want to think along those lines for next winter, but even a semblance of that, maybe as part of the tree lighting ceremony in the market, the Clock Tower Square. Potentially, you could look at something like that without overextending staff, obviously, because we're going to have a lot to do with the special promotions, and if we're doing the elf on the shelf scavenger hunt and other things like that to really increase spending downtown.
How do you Like, do you have a timeline for kind of gauging how interested the businesses would be for those special shopper Friday evenings? Like to know if they're going to participate or not?
I think it was really, I don't know if we were gonna send them all out as kind of a bulk group of dates and just get a general sense from them, or do it on a case by case basis.
So in general, I was more looking at seeing, because we'll only be able to do about 3 or 4
Mhm.
in there at a time. So see what the level of interest was. If there was more than 3 or 4 people that want to do it, then look at what dates work for what people, and then start sort of working through there, trying to get a little bit of a mix each Friday night.
Mhm. And like, what about like the other shops downtown, like to encourage them to stay open as well? Like, would you be gauging their interest as well? Like, say we had a ladies' night or a men's night.
Well, we would have to sort of start, I think, probably from an email, and those
Yeah.
generally are followed by a
In
series of
person
visits
visits.
to-
Yeah, no, that's what I was
So,
thinking.
that's sort of the direction. But I think people will be, I think there's interest in doing something like that, is something that I've heard mentioned a number of times there, so.
And with it coinciding with the Christmas holiday.
Yeah.
The holiday, shopping season, I think it'll be a much easier sell with the businesses.
Mhm.
And, if we can get them on board for this. A long term, we were talking about this just a few days ago, is, ideally, it would be really great to, get something like this going, even on a once a month basis. Once a month, late night shopping in downtown Prescott, right? Get a nice mix of merchants on board with staying open till 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock to accommodate those people who work for a living, frankly, and don't necessarily live where they work. So by the time they get here, everything's closed, and they may well want to support local, but unfortunately, they can't. So I think maybe if this could lead to maybe more of a permanent thing, that would be lovely, but I don't think we'll have any problem getting businesses on board for
No.
the Christmas special shopping days.
Does anybody else?
I had a question. What about doing the Santa's workshop like we did? I think it was just the year prior to COVID. Dana, do you remember?
I do, yeah, and I think, so last year? I think we had the community services department was relatively new, and they ended up taking more of a lead on the visits with Santa and that aspect of it as part of the tree lighting ceremony, and they coordinated a bunch of activities in the clock tower parking lot. So I think it just seemed like more of a natural fit for them to take the lead with those activities. Something that we would certainly be more than open to partnering on, whether it's something that they wanted to do in conjunction with the visitor center museum. That's kind of how it went last year, is they had the tree lighting and then visits with Santa over at the museum and visitor center, and a combination of activities going on at both sites, and people were just kind of moving between the two. So I think that's one of the bigger things we wanted to get a sense of, is community services planning on doing that this year, and that will kind of dictate where we go with ours. Because I think they were a huge hit. The visits with Santa and the workshops with the different craft stations that we did, they went over really big, and that was in conjunction with the parade. And I think that would personally be the night to do, at least have one, right? If you're gonna do multiples, at least have one, possibly coordinate in such a way that Santa finishes the parade and then comes into the downtown to maybe do some visits with Santa. Does the group remember in years past, did the tree lighting always coincide with the parade, or were they always separate events?
I think
That's
they were
what we
always
trying to
separate.
Figure out.
I was told early December, is usually the tree lighting.
Yeah.
So they've always been separate events,
Yeah.
traditionally.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think we'd be looking at 2, and I know the year that we did it, we coincided the visits with Santa with the parade versus.
Yep.
But I feel like they did the tree lighting that because Santa was down there at the Market Square.
Yeah.
And they
but
did
we-
Tree lighting was done.
Yeah, tree
I think
lighting
we
was
did
done.
too.
And that was
Yeah.
all the same night that year.
Yeah.
That's why I'm from,
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
a lot of people mentioning that it was 2 different nights, because the only recollection I have was everything happening on the same night.
And the feedback
I
was
think
very
we had
positive.
2 nights.
That was just COVID.
What's that?
Maybe just COVID related was why everything happened together that one time.
I
So
can't
that's a
remember.
question to be determined.
Which-
We'll find out from Samantha, but I know she's very busy planning pumpkin parade, so I don't think
Oh,
they put a
yeah.
whole lot of effort into the actual Christmas, so
Yeah,
we're really
because-
just trying to give some time for that to.
Are you talking, Pearl, are you talking about the one we did at Ben's?
Yes,
Yeah, that was that was tree lighting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
we
already
also did
purposed,
another
and the
one.
feedback that we got was a lot of people actually came down just for the two events.
So is that what it was? That wasn't a parade?
There was,
Oh.
did we not?
It wasn't a parade, it was the tree lighting,
Yeah.
the tree lighting and the Santa.
That year, I think we ended up doing two because the tree lighting got canceled.
Yes.
Yes,
And moved to next
everything,
week.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's what it was. And then we had the horse-drawn wagon rides.
Yes.
In the downtown.
Yeah.
During the tree lighting.
those are a hit.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And then they did that last year too. They had the same people come in and do the horse-drawn wagon rides for the tree lighting. So I would anticipate they would probably be two separate events, probably very similar to what we saw last year,
Mhm.
would be my guess. But what we could do is see if community services doing visits with Santa and see if they would be interested in doing it maybe on the parade night too.
Parade night, I think typically a lot of us stay open anyways.
Mhm.
It's not something most of us need to be asked to do. I think most of us do it, but because we have fun doing it, so.
Yeah,
the challenge with parade night is that it gets a little bit later. And a lot of kids are not gonna.
Yeah.
you've got it for dinner, you've seen a parade, are you gonna be up for visits?
No, they're already busy for a few hours.
It's being thrown around and
Do they not also meet at the lead?
Prescott's parade's a long parade.
not
Hot
sure,
dogs and,
yes.
and chocolate milk afterwards, or, yeah, hot dogs and just hot chocolate?
not sure. Like, I think there's a natural alignment between like Santa and, like, it'd be nice if it was Santa in the parade, but you can't really have Santa before the parade.
No, it's gotta be an
Right?
after parade.
So I think there's a nice match between Santa and the lights. Because that's an event for a family, and then, because again, once Santa goes by, people are running for their cars, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tree lighting is
Yeah.
definitely, I think tree lighting's a better night to
I agree,
do stuff.
especially if the weather's bad.
Mhm. So I would speculate community services would likely take the lead on a lot of that, but we could certainly support it with some of the, we could maybe plan a late night shopping event
Mhm.
for that night and try and encourage businesses to stay open. Have some special promotions that night, have the museum and visitor center open for sure.
I know like the shop, guy shopping night, women's shopping, girls night, those are usually big hits before Christmas, as long as they have plenty of
Mhm.
ahead advertising, so they usually
Yeah.
go over well. Actually, I'm not sure if we've ever done a men's night.
I know there was
I've never heard of one in
a
town.
group, I think, of merchants that did men's and ladies night there a couple of years pre-pandemic, I think.
We did.
Leslie used to go arrange the women's night with
Donna.
Donna, yeah.
Donna, yeah, I think Portolano might have been involved in that. And I think they would have planned a men's night as well at one point.
Well, I think maybe they did.
I'm pretty sure they did pre-pandemic. This would be, kind of building off of, which I think were very successful events, so.
Yeah, maybe with with thinking about a children's shopping night, maybe that would be a good opportunity to give away Prescott dollars.
Do it on
Yeah.
a Saturday though, like a
Yeah.
Saturday afternoon
Yeah,
Well, evening, because we're trying to encourage the evening
for children though.
shopping. But you could do it Saturday into the evening and, ask businesses to stay open later that night. Because it's all, children of all, right? We're not just talking little kids, we're talking kids of all ages, I would assume, going shopping with their parents. Yeah. We're certainly open to ideas. But I know like that's a pretty full, just between organizing those shopping nights, this out on the shop scavenger hunt, that and a lot would be. But I think that would be fun because the one year that we did, well, not fun, yes, but also we draw a lot of people into the businesses, because we did that for the 12 days of Christmas the one year. Something happened with, we were running out of time, that's what it was, we were running out of time. We had so many contributions of gift cards and things like that, that we were trying to expedite the process to make sure that we got them out to people in time to shop and use them for the holidays. That we actually did a bit of a scavenger hunt thing. We'd go in and take a picture, like an up close picture of a couple of products in some local stores, and then put it out there, and people would guess, and those, you know, whoever guessed right would win the Prescott Proud dollars. And that went over really well. Like, people were on top of that, really engaged. They were looking for those posts, so it could be fun.
Mhm.
And I think, again, you know, get people physically in the business. And hopefully dropping some dollars.
Anybody else? Comments, suggestions? No? We're quiet. The next agenda item, elections, AGM, and recruitment. Did you want to?
Sure. So we have discussed this previously, but with ideal, how would you want to say that? So we will need to elect a new board. There will have to be a call for members, and that coincides with the municipal election. Ideally, we would hold the AGM, which we have to have in order to elect a new board, likely in January. So if we started looking at setting a date for that, we could reconstitute a recruitment committee, but that might not be necessary if people wanted to just start informally, maybe talking to people you know who might be interested. And we'll put out a more general call through the town BIA Facebook channels for nominations. We'll also do more targeted things. Tracy and I have talked about what the CFDC did through their posts about attracting new board members. So we can look at doing some posts through a BIA page to sort of get a call for nominations. But sort of the key thing now would be to look at the potential dates for that AGM and get that stuff started, looking for, to ensure we have a sufficient number of members to have that, and potentially get as many new people or people who are maybe interested in taking part as possible.
Mhm. I think the biggest thing may be to have the financial statement in order, right? You can't have it. To have the financial statement in order, just, we wouldn't be able to have it, like, say, the first week of January kind of thing.
So we wouldn't necessarily have a form of audited statement, but
No.
we could have
The state.
a full accounting, full statement, everything
Okay.
would be allocated right now. And essentially, what's been allocated and through the board motions throughout the year, that's just a case now of accounting that in that statement. So
Okay.
that has already been expended, and it's just sort of making that allocation in the accounting system. So I don't think it would be an issue to have a financial statement for the year end, then it just wouldn't be final audited statement.
Right.
And I can confirm with Matthew, that's no issue whatsoever.
Okay.
Do that. It's really just the
notice
timing,
period.
because it can't drag that much far beyond the new term of council. It generally has to coincide with all boards, you know, all committees of council have to be re-elected at the same time. So you may have noticed calls for the planning committee go out, committee of adjustment. It's just a different process for the BIA because we operate under a separate governing bylaw.
And what's the notice period again? Is it 14 days?
Same, yeah, so it would be the 14 days, and we'd have to have all our ducks in a row and get it out, you know, probably by the second week of January, maybe shoot for the third or fourth week.
Yeah,
We're not gonna wanna send anything out that first week
No.
of January.
maybe we should just aim for the last week of January then.
So the first January. We're keeping everything on Tuesdays.
I think that's.
I like that too.
It's in January, gives us ample time to get notice out by the week of the 9th. Without scrambling, because we'll be working a very short week, the week of the 2nd.
Everybody good with that? Carol?
Mhm. Have we had any interest from any other business owners?
Some members have had the odd conversation, haven't you, with a few that may be interested?
Well, I think I've only talked to one.
But this is the time, certainly,
And
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
cases,
start those conversations. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jess.
I'm just a bit worried because, the last few meetings, we haven't had a full, oh geez, it's been quite a while since we've had a full board.
And-
Are Leslie and Dawn still on the board?
So Dawn has confirmed that she intends to resign at the end of this term. She's become quite busy with her second business. So
Yeah.
she's really just agreed to kind of stay on to the remainder of this term to ensure that we don't have any issues with meeting quorum, and certainly not something she's doing out of a lack of interest, it's just lack of time.
Right.
And I don't think we've heard anything from,
Leslie was unable to attend tonight,
Sorry, what was that, Leslie?
was unable to attend tonight.
Okay.
so she hasn't expressed interest in resigning or stepping down at this point. But this is essentially, everyone will have to resubmit their interest. If you're an existing board member, there's nothing to stop you from continuing to sit on the board. It's just going through that formal process of resubmitting your interest, and we hold the formal elections and hopefully get a few additional business owners on board so that we're not running so dangerously close to quorum.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I would say, if people, sometimes people don't know they're interested until you ask them if they may be, so if there's someone you think that might be interested, sometimes just asking them if they are opens a door that they didn't really think about previously. So if there is anyone you have in mind that might be interested, asking them can move that along.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, the opportunity exists, or assume, make a dangerous assumption, frankly, about what the process is to sit on the board, that you have to be nominated by a third party, for example, that it is simply a formality of putting your own, you can self-nominate, and, we do want to see that a well-rounded group of downtown businesses. I have spoken with a couple of commercial property owners in the past, well, not in the past, in recent months, that have expressed interest. So they could certainly be included on our notification. But definitely this is the time to really, as board members, this is, I would say, one of the bigger pieces to your role as members is to actively be recruiting and promoting the benefits of sitting on the board. And we can certainly provide you with materials, like maybe a one-pager, just kind of highlighting what a BIA is and what the main functions are. I'm more than happy to do that. I think actually we should send that out in the call this time, because I don't think we've ever done that previously. So
I think that's a great idea.
yeah, we can start doing that.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people, exactly to your point, are intimidated. They don't really understand what the obligations are.
Yeah.
So if it's kind of articulated, then that takes that fear or that concern away.
Mhm.
And we can do a lot of that pre-promotion too, some of that more public education, right, leading up to it, to hopefully encourage some new people to come out.
Okay.
Shoot for January 31st. Location, do we want to confirm? We generally do them here, but I would suggest with the, well, I don't, depends on how many people come. I was thinking visitor center museum. It's a nice space. It's somewhat limited though in capacity.
If we weren't concerned about people being able to see the speaker, we could put an adequate number of people in there, but
Mhm.
there's partitions all throughout it, so. Because Evanston might be a better option for that, just because there's enough space.
Probably the way to go. And you never know, we typical next door house, so certainly don't want to create awkward. Unless there's another location, really, aside from like the Legion. That's within the, you know, the downtown, there's not a lot of.
Just what about the fire hall?
Space.
The fire
Fire hall.
hall space.
Fire hall. Potentially, we could put a request in for that. I know they are trying to restrict, for the most part, having it available for public or rented events. I think they are restricting it to maybe a half a dozen private events or so a year, but we can certainly put that request in. And if it's ample notice, which it would be.
Okay. Anybody else have any? No? Okay, so we're at number 10, new business from members. Does anybody have any new business they'd like to bring up? No? No? We're good. So the upcoming committee meetings then. Promotions committee would be.
Do you want to go ahead with that next Tuesday night?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's October 18th at 6 p.m. at the museum.
Yeah, that'll at least at a minimum be able to put framework into place for the rest of the year, so.
I agree.
And we'll make a point of having a chat with community services this week, just to see if they have anything finalized at this point for the Christmas.
Sure.
Yes.
So nothing from anybody else. I guess we'll do a motion for adjournment.
Did you want to hold a recruitment committee meeting for AGM planning,
Oh,
possibly?
what's everybody think? Well,
And set something up maybe instead of your beautifications?
So
Couldn't we schedule one?
the following Tuesday is the 25th.
Day after the election.
Tuesday following the election.
So not that day.
So not that day.
Nay to the nay, nay to the nay.
I'll be here.
Oh, that's right, you're right. Who is on, oh, you know, I guess we need to confirm who's on there.
Recruitment committee, I don't know if the president has a complement.
Okay.
Oh, there's not even a committee.
So maybe we need.
Everybody.
Formalize who is interested in comprising that committee and get our first. Still give us time for AGM planning, but you just plan for maybe the next meeting to establish those recruitment committee members.
that sounds good.
To give a heads up to members when you send the package out, just so letting them know there is gonna be a trying to pull more.
And then maybe that'll give us all a chance to ask around and see what interest there
Yeah,
is.
see who might be interested, yeah.
Yeah, then you'll have some discussion after the first meeting, just get a better sense of.
Okay.
Yeah, and then finalize the rest of the plans, and
Okay.
then we'll have our marching orders to, for Justin, I don't see, I know it's not, it's him.
I blanked either. I wasn't paying attention or is there something going on after or during the pumpkin parade?
So there'll be a pumpkin parade and there will be, hopefully pending those vendors confirmed, we'll have some sort of market there as well. And there will be live music.
I've heard.
New band name escapes me at the present moment, but
Oh,
Tinted wisdom.
Tinted
Yes.
Wisdom will have the stage.
Fun activities at community services.
did they have a member change?
I'm not sure. I have to talk to him.
Artistic differences?
Artistic.
Okay, so we're good then for adjournment. Make a motion for adjournment. Kevin, the seconder. Linda, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone, for coming out.